I've traveled all over China like for a couple decades now, and I've visited a lot of factories, and I've always had my own proprietary designs that I was looking to get built, to get manufactured. So, and that makes IRONMASTer in a lot of ways unique, in the fitness market, because a lot of other companies will just try to find a factory that offers some products, some fitness products, and they'll say, hey, maybe you put our brand name on that item, that rack or that bench or whatever it is, and paint it the color that we want, and then maybe do a couple little cosmetic things, and then they say, yeah, that's what we want. And so they didn't have to do the R&D, they didn't have to do the engineering, they didn't have to come up with some brilliant idea. They were just kind of taking something and putting their brand on it, and I've seen that time and time again. So a lot of factories in China, know that. That's how a lot of fitness brands like to work. So they will, not all, but a lot of them, most of them, and they'll offer a lot of different products that they've manufactured samples, and they've got new concepts. They've seen something that was inspired them, so they would make some pieces, and they would have these big showrooms and warehouses full of equipment, and you can kind of tour through them and you can see what's available. And you can just take the path of least resistance and just say, yeah, I'll take, I kind of like that and that piece over there, and let's try to negotiate on the cost and just try to put it out to the market. And sometimes you'll see some stuff that's new concept that nobody else is selling, and that's kind of interesting. But in my own experience, when I saw some interesting looking pieces of equipment at various factories in China, I decided to spend some time training on it, using it and trying it. And everything that I've designed has been based on my own personal experience and training. And I still train with weights, and I have other people at IRONMASTer here that do, and we got people like you that train on IRONMASTer stuff. So, all that experience helps come up with what I think are really, ergonomic and functional designs that are really thoughtful, where the stuff I've ran across in China, even though it might look kind of impressive, a lot of times, the fit and the feeling or the stability, things like that just aren't right. The people that design the equipment and came up with the dimensions and the geometry and the materials and the tolerances, they just wanted to build something that looks like a rack or a bench or what. It has to look the part, right? But they didn't really design it to make sure that all the ergonomics and the use of it is going to feel good, and it's going to feel something that you get good results on, you're going to feel comfortable with, and you're going to enjoy using. And so they really missed the mark on a lot of things.
The best example I heard of that was, I've got two good examples. Was a factory was given a picture of a leg press. So they made the leg press, but the leg press, the guide rails, instead of using rollers or bearings, was just steel on steel sleeved. So apparently it looked really good, but you couldn't use it. It may have worked on lighter weight, but for a leg press, it needs to take a lot of weight, so that it would just bind on the guide rails. So they just didn't know that you'd use a lot of weight. And the other example, which I'll dig out the picture and put it up in the editing, was I got a normal hex trap bar is 86 inches. I ordered hex trap bar, and I got one, and it was 86 centimeters on the dot. So it was less than half the size. So you couldn't even use it. And that just sort of, that they're the worst cases, but it just shows you that they're just doing what they think's right. But unless you're doing the training, unless you're speaking to customers, unless you just got that interest and passion into gym equipment, you don't really know what you need to, what's important and what's not.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to say this like it's kind of a stereotype to say it's 100% of the case, but almost, very few manufacturers of fitness equipment that I've visited in Asia, Taiwan, or China you know, have anybody working there that actually trains on anything, you know, like they don't really know what it's supposed to feel like, you know, and they're focused on manufacturing, and bless them for that, you know, because we need these manufacturers, but but they just don't really have the, you know, the experience and the passion for designing the equipment, you know, so to begin with.
No, when I was working with PowerTech, and went to their factory to help them with a few things, I just said to the owner, I go, the best thing you can do is just get these guys, find a personal, I didn't even know if there was personal trainers in China back there, find someone that can teach a couple of guys how to train and get them into it, because you know, they were so good. They could, you'd say to them, build it, you know, do this, and you know, I always have great respect for the Chinese, because they just, the guys would just come from anywhere, rip it apart, welding, everything would be flying off, no safety gear, and you'd come back an hour later and the whole thing would be redesigned. But it's just that they just did not really know, like then I'd have to jump on and go, well, that doesn't feel right, that doesn't, you know, if you make it. And the other issue is, even when they do, if they can do that, that a lot of them aren't, a lot of the Chinese are shorter, so they'll make it for, you know, there'll be range of motion issues. So yeah, that's
sure. I mean, you have to find, you know, it's difficult to make equipment that fits a various range of size people, you know, and but it's important, especially when you're selling into Australia or America or Europe. You know, we got a lot of, you know, short but also taller people, so you know, you have to make sure it's going to fit everybody properly, and that's something that, like you said, just it really takes, you know, personal dedication to designing the product and making sure that geometry is good for everybody, and also putting in the thought, like we talked about earlier, you know, like not just making something that looks good and maybe even fits, but making something that's designed to have a good lifespan, you know, and that it's going to, like, you know, it's not going to just last a year to last through the minimum warranty period. You know, you want something that's going to really give you a good long-term investment and good performance, you know.